Oh, cool. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So it looks like there are questions in the chat, and I do understand if some people have to get off to work or whatever they're doing, but we are going to take questions. And Carolyn, our executive coach, is going to facilitate the questions. So,
yes, we've got some good feedback and a lot of thank yous in the chat. There is one question for Diane. I know that was a lot of information to take in, but Diane, can you go over those hours needed to develop the strong relationships that we're looking for?
Absolutely. So what the study found was that at 50 hours of interaction, spending time with somebody, you will move that person from an acquaintance to, quote, a casual friend. That's at 50 hours. At 90 hours, 90, that person goes from a casual friend to a real friend. And then at 200 hours is when they become a really close friend. And so, so it's 50 hours, 90 hours to become a real friend, and 200 hours to become close friends. And in this study, they found that 90 hours was kind of the benchmark where they really noticed the significance and more referrals. However, when they crossed the 200 mark, they generated on an average of 5 times more referrals than any other.
So Diane, just a follow-up question on that. Could you expand a little bit more on the one-on-ones and how that plays into the hours?
Sure. So like, and you know, this could go for just not only a one-to-one, but let's say 3 or 4 of you want to get together to get to know each other. Every time you spend time with these people that are in your PWRG group or anyone, you're getting to know them. They might mention, oh my gosh, I need to go pick up my son. And someone says, I didn't even know you had a son. So it's getting to know people, not just on a business level. It's a personal level. It's getting to know them and getting what is their life like when they're not at work. And so the one-to-ones are really important. And I find even if you go to a mixer, spend some time with somebody at a mixer, pull them aside and spend 20 minutes if you can, one-to-one, or find people at the mixer you want to get to know. But it's all of those times that you interact. It's like a little stopwatch. Every time you're with somebody and you spend time together, whether it be a Zoom luncheon or whatever, those all add up. And it's once you have those hours invested is when you can refer, because it's just a completely different level of relationship. Thank you.
Elsa, kind of a follow-up question for you in terms of a little more specificity. There was a lot in your presentation about constructing your story and personal and business goals. Do you have any suggestions for how somebody could go about identifying their personal business goals?
Oh, that's a big question. I mean, that's kind of self-work, right? That's when you kind of sit down and explore. So, you know, money's obviously the thing that most of us think immediately motivates us, but there's so many factors that come into play there. You know, how much are you willing to give up of your day? How do you have children? How do you want to live your life? Because sometimes the chunk of money that you want to make requires resources that you're not willing to give up for something else. So it's finding that balance between life and work. I think that's really key. When you have a handle on that, that helps you put together your priorities and what's motivating you. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds kind of wishy-washy, but that's such a big question.
It is. It really is a big question. But I think that I would agree with you that that's spot on in terms of at least starting to think about where your priorities and your goals are.
Yeah.
Ladies, this is Christine Sevier. I have one little feedback for that question. I often set myself I'd like to connect with 10 families a month. And that's like my goal for attending all of these referral groups is I want 10 families to know who I am and what I do.
Okay. Excellent. That's probably a good tip for all of us. So we have another question from Fariba. This is for all the speakers. Do you have any favorite personal development authors or trainers that you would like to recommend? Diane, why don't we start with you?
Well, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I've never gone to any of his live events, but when I go walking in the morning, 20 to 30 minutes of him, you kind of feel like Wonder Woman. So I actually really like a lot of Tony Robbins stuff. There's a lot of really, really good books, depending on if it's more about personal self-development, like belief system stuff, or if it's more inspirational stuff. So I don't know. I actually think it would be really fun if on the general PWRG Facebook group, if we could go in and post maybe the top 2 or top 3 books that we've read in the last year or two for self-development, and just post them. And that way we could kind of create our own little library list. So I would encourage you guys to go on the main PWRG, and just maybe we could make a little header that says favorite self-development books, and let's start collecting stuff.
Elsa, how about you?
Okay, I'm going to go a little old school, because I just read this book maybe a year and a half ago after, it's 100 years old. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others. It is, I've heard about this book for years, but I finally sat down to read it. And it's so applicable today. It's just being a better person and how you relate to people really affects your business success. So I love that book. And then there's a podcast that I've spent, the episodes are not too long. They're usually about 20 or 30 minutes. And it's the Get in the Door podcast. Most of them have been recorded. I don't know that they're doing any live ones, because unfortunately one of the hosts actually passed away last year. But Get in the Door is a really great podcast for getting motivated. How do you get in the door? How do you get in front of clients? How do you put together your sales program? So I enjoyed listening to that when I did.
Excellent.
I have a book on finding your why. Simon Sinek. I've done a presentation on that for our PWRG group, and it's SINEK. I think it's invaluable. He's written a lot of several really good books for business, but finding your why, going back to, writing your story and developing your business. If you don't have your why, you're going to, my personal opinion is you're going to burn out and get irritated with customers for interrupting your day. You have to really know your why to restate that. So I highly recommend his book, Simon Sinek.
And Christine, are you still on with us?
Yes, I would say for me, one of my golden go-tos is Mindset by Carol Dweck. I believe that's how I say her last name. But I mean, in any type of sales, you really have to prepare your mind every single day and just have that solid mindset on these are going to be my outcomes, and I'm going to put my energy into doing this each and every day.
Okay,
and I would highly encourage everyone to download the Audible app, because you can listen to books if you don't have a lot of, leisurely time like myself. Because I have 2 kids, I listen to a lot of books when I'm on the go, cleaning, doing everything else that I have to do.
Okay, great. Well, I wanted to turn it back over to Francene at this point in time for any closing comments.
Francene, before you start, could I just mention a quick book?
Sure.
I was so impressed with this one book. I've actually gone on Amazon and bought about 11 copies used, and I keep giving them to friends. But it's called it's old school, 3 Feet from Gold. So 3 Feet from Gold, G-O-L-D. And what it's actually based on a true story. And it's about this kid who seems, young adult who seems pretty savvy with his marketing company, but he really is struggling. And he leaves his jacket at a restaurant and goes into a cab and gets handed a much more expensive jacket, finds in the pocket a business card of a super successful, high, powerful businessman, and figures this is my opportunity to meet him. I have his coat. And so he almost screws up actually even meeting the guy. And the guy kind of feels not sorry for him, but kind of takes him under his wing. And he introduces him to like the woman who started Sally Fields Cookies, who started FedEx, who started all these companies. And instead of saying to them, what's your tip for success? Guess what he asked every one of them? How did you handle adversity? When things weren't going the way you wanted them to go, how did you handle it? And I just thought that was such a brilliant thing on his end. And so it's a really great read. It's something that you will literally read through and want to pass it on. I've read it like 3 or 4 times, but it's called 3 Feet from Gold.
Okay, so Francene, I'm just going to interrupt you for just a second before you close, because a couple of people asked this question. It's not really pertinent to the discussion today, but since two people asked it, I'll let anyone openly answer it. And that's, how important is it to pay for the premium service on LinkedIn? Any opinion on that?
I'll answer that because I've done both. I've paid for the premium and I just have the basic, and I've just been on the basic for a while. So I find for me, because I usually use it for research, I don't use it for a lot of personal messaging and in-mail stuff like that. So for me, the basic works.
Okay. All right. Any other comment on that? Our social media people out there? We will do a presentation on social media, I'm sure, very soon. We'll need to just put it together, okay? All right, so I guess if there's no more questions, I really want to thank, first of all, everyone for attending. I hope that you gained a lot. As you know, your group will grow if people are receiving referrals. Your group will not grow if people are not receiving referrals. Everybody can get a social group in various different ways. PWRG, though it is social, and because we're women, we love to be social, we're all about referrals. So as Diane pointed out, we're about relationships first and business second, but it is about referrals. So some of the chapters are better than others. And I will say that the Walnut Creek chapter that's been around the longest, we have had ebb and flows. And when it ebbs, it's because we haven't been giving referrals. And we just come down and we start to realize, oh my gosh, we're just socializing. And then, as soon as we get serious and we really start working on referrals, we start building our population, and we're off and running. But we never can take that for granted. So I hope you gained a lot from this. And each one of the speakers put their information in the chat box. And again, because this is recorded, you'll be able to find that. And if you can't find it in some way, of course, everybody has information on the website, PWRG.net, right? Got that right? Okay. And thank you again for our speakers. It took them, we had a few practices. It takes a lot of time to put that together. And weren't you impressed with all of our timing? I mean, we got you out of here and you can still have lunch if you haven't already eaten. So we thank you so much and join us for our next one.
Thanks, Francine. Great job, ladies.
Thank you.
Great